Welcome back to Joe Stunner Boxing. Some very sad news to report. The great light heavyweight and cruiserweight champion Dwight Muhammad Qawi passed away at the age of 72. He was battling dementia. Passed away today being 28th of July 2025. And yeah, very, very sad to hear. Dementia, a battle that no one ever wins, really. But there's no doubt he was a great fighter. He had a rather colourful life. He was born January the 5th, 1953. This was in Baltimore, Maryland. He was a bit of a street guy. Got into some naughtiness when he was young. Ended up convicted of armed robbery and went to prison for 5 years. Surprisingly, it wasn't more, but 5 years. He came out. Boxing was his thing. He was in Rahway State Prison along with James Scott, who he would later fight. Because Rahway Prison had an extensive boxing program, and both Qawi and James Scott picked it up. And then when they were released, they ended up, certainly when Qawi was released, he ended up going on to become a world champion. He was released from prison in 1978 and turned pro. He was very short for the weight. He was a light heavyweight for, well, certainly the most successful years of his career, although he did hold a cruiserweight title as well. But I think he was only about 5'7", roughly. 5'6", 5'7", not very tall at all. But he had a successful career. I mean, 41 wins with 25 KOs, 11 defeats, only 2 stoppages, one of them at heavyweight to George Foreman. I mean, I remember seeing that fight, and to see the 5'6" or 7" Qawi in with the 6'5" Foreman, it was almost comical. And in fact, he turned his back, I think, in the 7th round against Foreman. He was just getting clubbed and beaten up. And it was past his best anyway, Qawi, and what the fuck he was doing at heavyweight, I do not know. But yeah, that actually came off the back of when he lost his IBF cruiserweight title to Evander Holyfield. Well, no, he didn't. He was challenging for it, I think. Holyfield knocked him out in 4 rounds. Holyfield at the time was undefeated, and they had also fought an incredible fight, an incredible 15-round fight earlier in their careers, which if you've never seen it, you'll go see it. I mean, Holyfield was, I think at the time he was about 11-0 and just coming through, and Qawi took him to hell and back over 15 rounds and lost a split decision. Holyfield, of course, we know what he would go on to achieve, but the rematch, which was, I think, the following year, 86 was the first match, 87 was the second match. Holyfield got rid of Qawi, knocked him out in 4 rounds, and that was the first time Qawi was ever stopped. And then, like I say, he fought Foreman, jumped up to heavyweight just to sort of test the waters, I think, got stopped by Foreman. He'd win a few, he beat the usual suspects like Tyrone Booz on points and Everett Martin on points. And I think he lost to Mike Hunter. Robert Daniels, who was he lost a split decision to him. He was another pretty good cruiserweight who, I don't know, was that fight at cruiserweight or was it at heavyweight? I think it was cruiserweight. But the real success story of Qawi was when he was a light heavyweight, 175 pounder, still very short for the weight, still 5'7" at light heavyweight is very short. But he had the nickname the Camden Buzzsaw, and he was a buzzsaw. He was relentless. I mean, you want to talk about grinding pressure. This guy, bobbed and weaved, very, very short, lowered himself even further down, would get in close and huge clubbing hooks. Good defensively because he did a lot of bobbing and weaving and he had quite a high guard. And you would sort of catch him on top of the head and, the pressure he would put on you would destroy most fighters. And he, like I say, in the first fight with Holyfield, he got to Holyfield. He was beating the crap out of Holyfield. Holyfield went to hospital afterwards. I think he was dehydrated. There was something wrong with his kidneys. But anyway, that was up at cruiserweight. Back at light heavy, prior to that, I know he beat a pretty good fighter called Mike Rossman. stopped him in 7 rounds. I think that was his coming out party, because he beat some. He had a reputation. He was coming through, and then after Rossman, he fought James Scott, the aforementioned James Scott, who he shared a bit of quality time with at Railway Prison, and he won a unanimous decision over him. Now, that got him a shot at the WBC light heavyweight champion, who was the incredible Matthew Saad Muhammad, who was Mr. All Action. I mean, you talk about Arturo Gatti coming back from the dead numerous times in fights. Make no mistake about it, Matthew Saad Muhammad was a light heavyweight version, and he had, on so many occasions, he'd been beaten up. It looked like he was about to be knocked out, and he came back to win fights. He couldn't manage it against Qawi. Qawi ended up stopping him in 7 rounds. Yeah, and then I think he made successful defences. I think he fought Muhammad again in a rematch at some point. This would have been 81, 82, and he knocked him out again in 6 rounds to defend the title. He stopped Eddie Davis. Eddie Davis is a pretty good fighter as well, pretty good light heavyweight. And then he lost the title to Michael Spinks on a unanimous 15-round decision. That was a unification. Spinks, I think, held the WBA title. That was in 83. Now, the IBF was founded in 1983. So just the 2 belts at the time. WBO didn't come along until 88, I think it was, 1988. And he was still beating good men afterwards. He scored an 11th round TKO. This was up at cruiserweight now, over Piet Cruz of South Africa. That was in Sun City. He knocked him out in 11 rounds. Michael Greer, that was a pretty good win. And then he also beat what was left of Leon Spinks. I mean, everyone was knocking out Leon Spinks at that time. It was terrible, really. That was down at cruiser. That was at cruiserweight as well, because Spinks dropped down to cruiser. And the title he held at cruiserweight was the WBA title, so he won that. He was making some good money, some good, few defences, ran into Holyfield and was never really the same again, certainly after the second Holyfield defeat. Because he still had enough left to beat people like Leroy Murphy, who was, again, a decent cruiserweight. The cruiserweight division was in its kind of infancy when Qawi was champion and was still campaigning in that weight division. But people like Qawi and obviously Holyfield, they did propel the cruiserweight division into some sort of respectability. I mean, Qawi actually lost a majority decision to Ozzy Ocasio, who held the WBC cruiserweight title 4 times. Ocasio was this perennial cruiserweight champ who sort of hung around for fuck knows how long, picking up the belt. He'd win it, he'd lose it, he'd win it, he'd lose it. And other people, like I say, Leroy Murphy was one of them. He was pretty decent. But the cruiserweights were growing, and definitely Qawi, he'd been an excellent light heavyweight champion. Moving up to cruiserweight, he kind of propelled that division forward. It gained some sort of gravitas because of the presence of Qawi, and then Holyfield came along. And prior to that, I mean, Tyrone Boozy beat Tyrone Boozy. He was a decent cruiserweight. So there were some good names on Dwight Muhammad Qawi's record. Like I say, he was born Dwight Braxton, converted to Islam, I think, when he was in prison. And, retired eventually in 1988 after a points defeat to Tony La Rosa. But by this point, I mean, he lost it. He fought just about everyone. He lost the decision to Nate Miller towards the end of Nate Mr. Miller, who was a belt holder. Was it IBF cruiserweight belt holder? So he fought everyone. Arthur Williams, he lost a 10-round decision to him. These were good fighters. Ricky Parkey, I think he stopped Ricky Parkey. Ricky Parkey was a former IBF cruiserweight champion. So, this Qawi was Qawi is forgotten, I think, to a large extent, apart from obviously the hardcore fighters, because I don't really know why. Because he was certainly in the light heavyweight division when he was reigning. He was that was a really terrific era for the light heavyweights. apart from Spinks, Michael Spinks was a great light heavyweight champion. Matthew Saad Muhammad, Eddie Mustafa Muhammad was another excellent light heavyweight, became a trainer afterwards. Who else did we have? Mate Parlov, Marvin Johnson held the WBC title 3 times. Really good fighters. Eddie Davis was a good light heavy. I mentioned Mike Rosman, didn't I, who Qawi beat early on in his career, about 81, I think it was, 80, 81. So yeah, he was in a great era for the light heavyweights and should be better remembered, I think. And also as someone who put the cruiserweight division on the map too, I think Dwight Muhammad Qawi. Rest in peace, Dwight. Thanks for the memories, mate. Terrific fighter. Very exciting fighter as well. If you've never seen him fight, go and have a look on YouTube and you'll see that style that he had, that, you know, I'm coming for you. The Camden Buzzsaw indeed. I mean, what's a fighter? What's an incredible fighter? Go and have a look. Anyway, I just thought I'd let you know about this very sad event. If you've got any memories of Dwight Muhammad Qawi, maybe you're of a certain age, as some of us are, and you remember him fighting, please leave your comments below. Tell me what your favourite fight of Dwight's was, and let's have a little trip down memory lane. Why not, eh? All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for watching. Spread the word about Joe Stunner Boxing. Hit the like button, hit subscribe. Most importantly of all, rest in peace, Dwight Muhammad Qawi. I'll get you later. Bye for now.